I invite Professor Eun-Kyung Oh of the Turk Institute of Dongduk University to open and moderate this afternoon's webinar and panel discussion. Professor Oh is the director of the Institute of the Eurasian Turkic Studies and holds other respected positions and is widely published. So it is a great honor to introduce Professor Oh.
Thank you very much for your kind word, Michael. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session. My name is Eun-Kyung Oh, Professor of Turkology, a specialist of Turkey country. I am delighted to have the opportunity to moderate this afternoon session regarding life, environment, and ICH along the Silk Road. For this conference, ICCAP has teamed up with the Korea Central Asia Cooperation Forum Secretariat and ICAS to develop a survey about ICH festivals along the Silk Road. This program is the first phase of the long-term commitment to extend the network to include other ICH forms in the future. ICCAP has supported ICH networking in Central Asia, the Northern Silk Road axis, for the past decades. ICCAP and Uzbekistan signed a three-party MOU to activate Silk Road intangible cultural heritage networks in 2019, which was followed by a Central Asia sub-regional network meeting in Almaty, Kazakhstan, 2019. So I would like to thank to ICCAP, ICAS, and KF for hosting this important conference here in Seoul, and also online webinar conference. We've got a terrific panel for you this afternoon. Well, hope that you are as excited as I am about the quality of the speakers. The objective of this panel will be to provide you through different presentations with an overall view of what is the role of ICH along Silk Road is today, where it is going, what the opportunity and challenges are, and role of that ICH is playing. Afterwards, as I said before, hopefully we'll get a lot of questions, and more hopefully, even be able to answer them. The format we are going to use today is basically as follows. To begin with, each speaker will give presentation in 15 minutes. Afterwards, we'll get into a question and answer session. We are delighted to welcome a very distinguished panel of experts, and we look forward to their remark and to lively question and answer session following their presentation. I'd also like to welcome the people that are joining us today over the internet. We are running the meeting live over the internet for people that aren't here personally from all over the world. You can see that our YouTube channel too. Also, during the day today, we are going to be posting the slides as those are presented. We provide simultaneous presentation into 3 languages too, English, Russian, and Korea. We hope we do a good job here today with this panel. So our first panelist is going to be a world-renowned ecologist, Ms. Helena Norberg-Hodge. Let me shortly, I will introduce her briefly. Helena Norberg-Hodge is a pioneer of the new economy movement and recipient of the Alternative Nobel Prize, the Arthur Morgan Award, and the Goy Peace Prize for contributing to the revitalization of cultural and biological diversity and the strengthening of local communities and economies worldwide. She is the author of The Inspiration of Classic Asian Futures and Local is Our Future. Here, she is going to talking about humanity, environment, and Silk Road. Please welcome Ms. Helena Norberg-Hodge. I would like to turn podium over to Ms. Helena Norberg-Hodge. Please welcome her.
Thank you very much, Dr. O, and I'm very honored to have this chance to speak to you today. I'm coming from a very unusual perspective. I've been spending a lot of time at the grassroots around the world in many different cultures, but it was above all my experiences in Ladakh, or Little Tibet, as it was also known, a Tibetan region in India, that I arrived in 1975. I learned to speak the language fluently, and I ended up devoting many years of my life trying to work with the local people to protect their cultural self-respect and their relatively self-reliant economy from the impact of conventional development and globalization. So this experience opened my eyes to the fact that literally in every culture around the world today, we are being affected by a global monoculture, a consumer monoculture. It's being promoted through conventional schooling. It's being promoted, of course, through the media, and now also through the social media. I believe that we have an emergency situation, not just because of climate change and the extreme and rapid loss of biodiversity, but because of the loss of self-esteem, the loss of identity, particularly among our young people. I have worked enough at the grassroots around the world to be very clear about what we need to do to support deep self-respect, confidence, and mental health, especially among young people. And it starts with rebuilding the fabric of local face-to-face community relationships. It's particularly important that we support festivals or other cultural activities that carry on with the intergenerational connections that existed in all cultures through the ages. It is equally important that we support the deep connection to nature that is what gave rise to cultural diversity. The reason we have different cultures around the world is that people were relating to their particular environment, their particular climate, and this is how the richness of culture arose. I think that without the bigger picture, to understand that the global economic system is linked to educational and communication tools that promote monoculture. If we don't see that, and if we don't try to encourage much more local cultural relationships and cultural traditions, I think we will see, as I say, even worse epidemics of depression, anxiety, and serious mental health issues. My experience in Ladakh and Bhutan, also in Sweden, where I grew up, is also that the cultural pressures, the psychological pressures on people are connected to a rise in fundamentalism, polarization, extreme divisiveness, and this is happening around the world. Why? Why is it happening? The monocultural system that's promoted through the global economy is also creating insecurity in livelihoods. People are experiencing extreme fear and insecurity in terms of how to just pay for the food on their table, have a house, a roof over their head. And why is this happening? We have been studying the impact of the global economy, particularly studied it with a group of 40 people from every continent. And what we found is that our governments are blindly supporting global banks and corporations. These global banks and corporations don't pay tax, and they're being deregulated. In the meanwhile, in every country, the smaller businesses, the local businesses that pay tax are being squeezed for regulations, very heavy regulation. Now, what I'm saying can sound revolutionary. I am not a revolutionary. I don't believe in revolution, but I believe that the time has come for us to look honestly at what's happening and to look at the big picture so that we can together collaborate across borders between government and big business, but also engaging civic society, the communities of the environmental movements, the social rights movements, and the representatives, particularly of small farmers around the world. We need to have a thorough, clear picture to understand why things are going very wrong, why it is that CO2 emissions are still increasing, why it is that we see very, very serious losses in biodiversity that we cannot ignore. And these, of course, are completely connected to the loss of cultural diversity. As we lose the languages, we are losing the knowledge about biodiversity. To restore that, it's not possible to go back. It's not possible to build walls around cultures. I don't think most young people would want that. I don't think most people want that. We have found in our work that a deeper dialogue between the most, if you like, developed, urbanized countries, including the United States and Scandinavia, with countries that are so-called less developed, a deeper dialogue and exchange, an honest exchange though, can be extremely helpful in understanding that America has not arrived at some kind of success story. America has more serious poverty than almost any country in the world. And yet we are blindly following an economic model that believes that bigger and faster and more competitive is the only way to go. Now, we are part of a movement that we've started from the grassroots, where people are demonstrating that when they support local businesses, local community building, and the local environment, and encourage a more direct relationship with nature in the place where people live. When people do that, we are showing that biodiversity can be restored, productivity can increase, and the number of meaningful livelihoods can increase. In this movement, the most important area that demonstrates without a shadow of a doubt why we need to support local economies is to look at food and farming. Food and farming is the absolute foundation for a healthy economy. It was the foundation of our cultures for our entire evolution. As people reconnect between consumers and farmers in a local food movement, we are witnessing a deep, archaic restoration of what it is to be human. People love to be in touch with the land that's producing their food, with the animals that are being killed and that they're eating, but they understand and feel a resonance with this very important activity, an activity that always has been connected also to our celebrations in cultures, in other words, food. Collecting, hunting, harvesting, processing, cooking together has been a way of celebrating. This local food movement, despite almost no help from the UN or any government, almost no help from the media or academia, is still growing. And it's quite a miracle. And I think the only reason it's growing is because it resonates so deeply with people. Now, the other thing that happens is that when you shorten the distance between the farm and the market, you are creating a free market pressure that pushes the farmers to diversify. When you produce for more and more distant markets, you are being pressured to grow bigger and bigger monocultures. Those monocultures are killing the soil, they are destroying biodiversity, they are threatening our survival. We are told now that we don't have many more harvests. I hope that some of you will listen to this and that you will pay attention to the grassroots local food movement as one of the most important movements to support in your work. If you're concerned with cultural heritage, be concerned with agricultural heritage. Study and learn from the local food movement, which is demonstrating that you can increase productivity when you diversify. On this crowded planet, it's essential that we support smaller diversified farms. It is absolutely not true that because we're so many people, we need larger scale farms, or that we need genetic engineering, which destroys biodiversity. Any bit of land, if you plant a range of things, included fruits, vegetables, some animals, maybe some grain, you will always be able to get more from that bit of land than if you do just one thing. So it's a fact, it's a truth, but it's one that is not being disseminated widely. I really sincerely hope you will look at this. I also hope you will see that when people have started with local food and they go on to support local energy production, when they go on to support local financing initiatives, they're rebuilding more human scale systems of interdependence. And these interdependent structures reduce the conflict and the polarization that is occurring as people are pulled into bigger and bigger cities, fighting for a few jobs. Now, after COVID, we have a very clear choice. Are we going to support more and more technology, using more and more energy, more and more minerals, and remove more and more people from the workplace?
Miss Helena, I'm sorry for that. Because of time limitation, can you wrapping up shortly in 30 seconds?
Yes. So we now have this choice between going more competitive, faster, monocultural, technology-based path, or start looking at more sophisticated technologies that are adapted to place, international collaboration to localize instead of continuing in the competitive globalizing path. So localization is the economics of happiness. It's what I described in my book, Ancient Futures. And I hope that some of you will look at our materials which spell out the big picture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very meaningful presentation. I'm very sorry for that. Because of time limitation, we could not give you enough time for the presentation. I'm sorry for that. Our second panelist is Dr. Seong-Yong Park, who is currently the Assistant Director General at ICCAP, a UNESCO Category 2 center in South Korea. He is also Editor-in-Chief of the ICH Courier, a quarterly magazine in the ICH field. He earned his PhD in Heritage Studies on the University of Queensland and authored on Intangible Heritage Safeguarding Governance, an Asia-Pacific context, published by Cambridge Scholars Publishing in 2013. To promote ICH in the region, he has been working to build network and information structures to safeguard ICH by establishing and operating sub-regional network in the Asia-Pacific region for more than a decade. He started sub-regional networking of the Asia-Pacific region from the Central Asia meeting held in Tashkent in 2010 and traveled to many heritage cities in Central Asia. Based on outcomes of his decade-long contributions in the ICH field in Central Asia, he is now working on generating a Silk Road ICH network in cooperation with various stakeholders in Silk Road area. In addition, he has a very big credit for hosting this event. So, without further delay, I would like to turn over the podium to Dr. Seong-Yong Park. He's going to be talking about on the collaborative mechanism for Silk Road ICH. Please give him a very warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. First, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our friends and colleagues who have collaborated to safeguard ICH in Asia-Pacific region, especially in Central Asia. I think our time and efforts over the last decade have led to this meaningful discussion today. I've been engaged with facilitating cultural development and cultural networking in the UNESCO field for many years. In particular, having this experience, I feel that we can win the synergetic effects further with each other by promoting ICH through collaborative mechanism along the Silk Road at both regional and global levels. ICCAP, as a UNESCO Category 2 center specialized in the ICH field, has supported the 48 member states in the Asia-Pacific region in pursuit of the public interest internationally. Based on its primary functions, which are in building networks and sharing information, ICCAP has now taken the initiative of organizing today's webinar and strategic meeting on the Silk Road ICH. Today I'm going to talk about few aspects of the rationale of the collaborative mechanism for the Silk Road's ICH network. As you are aware, there have been new and different approaches in understanding and interpreting ICH, which is living heritage transmitted across generations throughout human history. In brief, ICH is manifested in the domains of oral traditions and expressions, performing arts, social practices, rituals, and festive events, and knowledge and practices relating to nature and the universe, as well as traditional craftsmanship. ICH involves the cultural development of humanity and has accumulated for thousands of years. So when asked why we should care about ICH, I can only wonder how one cannot care in terms of promoting cultural identity and cultural understanding and fostering an environment of peace. It seems that we have nothing to lose and everything to gain by supporting efforts to safeguard ICH by transmitting this essential cultural knowledge to younger generations. The 2003 Convention for the Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage brought about a new paradigm in cultural policy, shifting from tangible to intangible aspects, stressing ICH's importance as a mainspring of cultural diversity and a guarantee of sustainable development. According to various reports on the feedback from ICH communities, it is said that ICH safeguarding has lifted local communities' ability to sustain their ICH as well as their development. This is especially the case of member states along the Silk Roads, and why this webinar and meeting have such significance. UNESCO implemented the decade projects of integral study of the Silk Roads of dialogue in 1980s and 90s. It highlighted the complex cultural interactions arising from the encounters between East and West and helped shape the rich common heritage of the Eurasian people. In the early 1990s, I was part of first project involving the Silk Roads expedition organized by UNESCO. Korea was one of the hosting countries. Since then, I can say that I've had a strong attachment to Silk Road region. As you are all aware, the Silk Roads are full of diverse cultures that have intermingled since ancient times. In addition to trading commodities, there was also widespread technological and cross-cultural blending, which is why some traditions have had widespread influence across various routes, leading to cultures of dialogue and peace. In a sense, Silk Roads created an atmosphere of rapprochement of cultures. It is well known that Eastern Turkic and Central Asian music were popular in Chinese music traditions, and many styles merged with Chinese musical tradition, which made significant contributions to China's choreographic culture. An example of this is Easterners performing in Constantinople. In addition, there were many exchanges between Central Asia and the Korean Peninsula in relation to introduction of Buddhism, and a lot of influences caused from exchanges in the economic, cultural, and art fields through the Silk Roads. Many material proofs suggest a volume of intercultural enrichment, which can be seen in terracotta molds of dances, masks, and musical group riding camels. In addition, many frescoes along the steppe route in eastern Turkmenistan depict musicians and actors, which are representations of intercultural synergy. ICCAP has implemented the field survey project targeting 35 states of the Asia-Pacific region, including many Silk Road states since 2009. Many reports were updated through other surveys. In addition, there was a recent survey project targeting the Silk Road states conducted by ICCAP and ICAS. As you are aware, there have been strong cultural interactions and mutual influences along the Silk Roads. In some areas, there are cultural similarities related to the prevalence of nomadic cultures, and accordingly, several multinational elements have been inscribed on the UNESCO list. Summarizing and illustrating several common challenges and tasks concerning ICH along the Silk Road found in the aforementioned survey project are a lack of an in-depth survey and research on the current status of ICH, insufficient institutional safeguarding measures, unsystematic inventory making and documentation capacities, and issues of informational accessibility and excessive commercialization. With these in mind, to address the challenges and tasks, ICCAP is looking for ways of connecting ICH stakeholders, including communities, through a network where the stakeholders can promote their ICH through a framework that keeps the spirit of ICH. It is also important to raise awareness among the public and policymakers about ICH's significance. and the possibility of international cooperation through Silk Road's ICH network. I am so pleased to share our experiences and outcomes gained from operating a Central Asian ICH network from 2010 to 2019. ICCAP has worked with most Central Asian states through field survey, online inventory making, digitization of analog ICH materials, and awareness-raising activities such as developing ICH publications, video documentation projects, etc. Through these collaborative works, states could generate positive outcomes under the platform of an ICH network by establishing ICH committees to take charge of identifying and documenting ICH in each society, reinforcing institutional safeguarding system and implementing safeguarding measures, getting better recognition of policymakers and the public on ICH through more promotional activities publicly and privately, and strengthening communications and collaborations among various stakeholders to safeguard ICH. Based on our achievement from the Central Asian ICH network, I would like to propose to move forward in developing a broader network targeting the Silk Road region with upgraded functions. An old proverb tells us that those who build castles will be defeated, and those who pave their way will prosper. In this context, the Silk Road ICH network is proposed as a cooperative mechanism with the following features: supporting and identifying ICH of each state, implementing a system to respond to various challenges and tasks, disseminating a community-centered decision-making structure in the spirit of 2003 Convention, creating a platform for vitalizing information exchange to help raise awareness about ICH, contributing to promoting sustainable development and a culture of peace through cooperation in the ICH field. At this webinar and strategic meeting, presentations and discussions will be made to establish and operate such a network and future cooperation projects. And there will be various opportunities for future collaboration. We look forward to making this meaningful journey together through cooperative and multilateral partnerships with you. Let's move forward to recreate the glory of the Silk Roads through intangible cultural heritage and our unwavering cooperation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Seong-Yong Park. It was a good presentation to reflect on the meaning of this today's conference and ICH. Our next speaker has also in a great distance. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Alisher Ikramov, currently Director for Development of International Cooperation, ICAS. He has been PhD researcher in the field of theory of probability, mathematical statistics, and the stochastic processes at the Steklov Mathematical Institute in Moscow and Institute of Cybernetics in Tashkent. Simultaneously, he lectured at the University of World Economy and Diplomacy and Academy of State and Society Construction and Tashkent Islamic University with focus on aspects of intercultural dialogue and cultural diversity. In 1994 to 2019, he was appointed to the position of the Secretary General of the National Commission of the Republic of Uzbekistan for UNESCO. He's also contributed a lot to this seminar. He's going to be a talk about vitality and sustainability of the Silk Road ICH Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Alisher Ikramov. I'm going to call on him.
Good afternoon, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, dear Dr. Oh, for your kind presentation, introduction of myself. So I would like maybe taking into account the shortage of time, I understand I have just 6 or 5 minutes according to our schedule, but I will try to be very brief and very sharp and very focused. Ladies and gentlemen, my presentation is related with sustainability and vitality of the intangible cultural heritage festivals, which is along the Silk Road. There are many such kind of the festivals. Therefore, I mean, would like to be maybe more concentrated on some of them. So let me now start my presentation. Just a moment. So, my presentation is based on the survey which has been implemented with support of each CAP in the 9 countries along the Silk Road. So we decided to start as testing for 9 countries from the Far East to the Western Asia, and to analyze among 5 types of stakeholders what's the situation with the ICH festivals, what's the situation with the transmission of intangible cultural heritage, how the safeguarding measures are implemented in the state parties. And just to inform you that we had 327 respondents from 9 countries, and the survey being implemented with great support of consultants and experts from the respective member states. And I would like taking of this opportunity to express my sincerely thanks for the encouragement, support, and the very close cooperation. And I'm very pleased to see that all of them now attending our online conference as well as webinar today. So if you will look to this diagram, so you can see it's more or less uniformly distributed number of respondents from countries who have been under the studies for ICH. So what was the next stage for the studying of ICH festivals? We decided to make much more deeper interview research on some particular festivals which is maybe existing long time, or which is maybe one of the important from the point of view of the member states. So thanks to support and to recommendation from our national experts from the member states, we did interview research on 37 ICH festivals in 8 countries. So we just considered for the time being just taproot part of the Silk Road, because, ladies and gentlemen, you know very well, the Silk Roads, there are many corridors in the Silk Roads. There are the steppe routes, desert routes, there are the maritime routes. There are many routes and corridors, and we decided to choose one of the parts, this is like steppe route part. And we discovered that ICH festival, in most of one of the commonalities, are used as a key element for regional development. And the second point, which is also very important in these member states, the ICH festivals is very important for the tourism promotion. Let's now look to more in details which festivals being proposed by state parties. Like from Azerbaijan, it was proposed 6 festivals, like very important festivals, which could be considered as the first members of this networking of ICH festivals. And there is the domains of these festivals is very different. They're covering as performing arts or oral traditions, as well as other maybe part of the domain of ICH, which is clearly indicated in the 2003 convention, which is related with the social practices or maybe some indigenous knowledges on universe and on nature. It was the 6 festivals which been on the screen. You can see which been proposed by the national expert from Azerbaijan. So, for example, from Kazakhstan, on the first stage, they proposed 4 of these festivals, which is covering different aspects of ICH domains. And I could, of course, stop on each one of them, but I think during maybe discussion time we could discuss more in details on particularly some festivals. So, from Kyrgyz Republic, we received 5 information on 5 festivals, and we did studies on 5 festivals, which is also covering different aspects of ICH domains, starting with a big, huge event which been initiated by Kyrgyzstan several years ago, which is World Nomad Games and World Epic Festival. including as very particular festivals like OIMO International Festival or International Feld Festival or Festival of Traditional Music. So we know very well, ladies and gentlemen, so there are many festivals in the Republic of Korea, but as a beginning, we decided to concentrate on 4 very famous festivals from Republic of Korea, which is one of the famous Endong Mask Dance Festival, and GGC Jungdari Festival, or Gangneong Danosh Festival, or Yonsan Beo Singjing Festival. So I think we will be discussing details, but most important is all of these festivals represent different parts of the Republic of Korea and different ICH domains. So from Mongolia, we was very interesting observations that most of the festivals very close related with surrounding nature. So like Eagle Festival with or maybe Mongolian Thousand Camels Festival. Of course, one of the well-known famous festivals is Nadam Festival, but also from Mongolia been recommended a festival like Danchik Nadam Festival, which is very localized and very much related with some local practices related with beliefs. So from Tajikistan on the first stage being proposed one of the big festivals, which is actually huge, which covering all countries. It is Osipala Festival and Navruz Festival. And of course, there are many other elements from Tajikistan, and there are many local many festivals in different communities. But for the first stage, for the beginning, we received these interview studies on 2 festivals. And from Turkey, we had very, very diverse approaches for the proposing of festivals, which is started with gastronomy festivals, for example, or maybe with traditional wrestling festivals, or maybe something which is more or less related with even contemporary, some tendency in the population, it's the International Orange Blossom Festival. So, and from Uzbekistan, we received 8 festivals, maybe because it was easy to communicate with ICAS, which is located in Samarkand. So we received information about 8 festivals, studies and deep studies for these festivals, which is covering, again, different types of ICH domains. What is maybe some like as outcome, what's maybe observation of these festivals now for your attention? So first of all, it is very important to understand that all objectives of these festivals are closely associated with awareness and successful transmission of local tradition and identity. Because when we're talking about the livelihood or maybe about the vitality, it is very important to understand that this festivals is promoting transmission. It is one of the key elements. The second one, that this festival, this safeguarding of ICH through these festivals been very important in terms of the representation of local practices worldwide. So these festivals are promoted representation activities. And another maybe element which is also very much common for these all festivals is that some ICH elements become very important assets for the social development programs and for the developing of creative industries. But here there is some challenges as well. We have to also concentrate on challenges of these festivals when we're talking about sustainable development, because each respondent had their own view on their own understanding. What does it mean sustainable development? And how we can understand sustainable development of festivals. First of all, the main maybe observation or maybe our outcome from the research, we discovered that image or maybe identity of each festival. So it is like local production or local tradition. So we have to identify, of course, is the image of this festival or its own face vis-a-vis Silk Road or along the Silk Road. Second one, all of these festivals which have been mentioned above, and maybe as well as during the sociological research of 327 replies, we understand that all of the festivals trying to attract foreigners, like for developing for cultural tourism, for developing of touristic infrastructure. But the interesting element that most of the participants of these festivals are local residents. So we have to admit that despite the fact that all these festivals open for the foreigners, for visitors, this is the main participants of the festival, it's local residents. So it is one of the maybe key elements for sustainability as well, the co-participation of local communities. What's the problem, challenges with these festivals? Despite the fact that they're increasing, they're becoming numbers. There are many activities organized within festival. Not only some performances, but as well as master classes, educational, scientific conferences, publication activities, museum activities. One of the maybe common problem, challenge of all these festivals is the fund scarcity, or maybe insufficient and ineffective advertising of the festival. Therefore, I mean, it is maybe should be considered something in the future that public-private partnership should be maybe one of the way how to achieve this sustainability of these festivals. And of course, and viability and sustainability of each ICH festival very much depends on the community support, on the sense of belonging of the local communities. Therefore, we have to clearly understand. I'm finishing. We have to understand the benefits and the cost of the event.
Sorry for that.
I'm finishing already. It's my last slide. Therefore, I mean, we have to be clearly understand on benefits and the cost of the event of each ICH festival. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we will be ready for answering the questions during the question time. Thank you very much indeed for your attention.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. We've been listening to the presentation on festivals on each Silk Road countries. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, after many interesting speeches by present speakers, you must be a little bit tired. But however, I'm sure that Mr. Dong-jo Yoo, who is an installation artist, is an appropriate speaker to finish this session. Wonderful speeches. It's my honor to introduce him. Dong-jo Yoo graduated from Hamburg National Art University. He has held about 90 individual and group exhibitions in Korea, Germany, Japan, China, Denmark, Switzerland, Hungary, and other places. Between 2004 and 2014, held a water performance and installation project which took place in 12 lakes and rivers in 10 countries. His main career highlights include jointly creating preventative art, performing an art movement and research group, and co-creating an art movement in 1993 with Professor Klaus Bohemler at Hamburg Art University. He is also a representative of a Korean Institute of Preventive Art and Research Association and president of Hanbat International Contemporary Art Association. Today, he will talk about the title of the Water Performance Installation Project, Yearning the Further Coexistence of Humans and Nature in the Silk Road region. So, with that introduction, I will turn over the podium to Mr. Dong-jo Yoo. Please welcome him.
So I would like to thank all the organizers for inviting me to this important forum. Beginning in 1979, I have worked to create installation art involving air, soil, and water, and I would like to say a few words about that. Today, the entire world is struggling to overcome crises such as global warming and water shortages, and most recently COVID-19. Although the policies of each country, along with modern science and medicine, may contribute to resolving these issues, I believe that the only true solution lies in the two values that we have learned and preserved by coexisting with nature throughout the millennia. These values are the minimum degree of conscience and self-sacrifice. I think these are connected to issues such as whether people are wearing face masks or not. The reason we try to save water is because we consider the final destination of the water we use after we are finished with it. To this end, we try to save water, but we also refrain from polluting the water. That is the minimum degree of conscience and self-sacrifice we must exercise to honor the water. Over the course of 11 years, from 2004 to 2014, in 11 lakes and 1 river in 10 countries, the Water Performance Installation Project, or WPIP, was made possible by the cooperation and close-knit network of the Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Korean Embassy, various individuals, art-related organizations, universities, and art galleries in each country. The project has a shared title, There is no water in the presence of water, and there is water in the absence of water. Ranging from 20 kilos to 180 kilos in weight, locally sourced straws are gathered up to a number corresponding to the number of characters or letters that make up the word water in the respective language of each country, then cast into different locations at various depths across the lake. I perform a kind of prayer ritual, wishing that the rocks will not be found. This is because the discovery of the rocks will mean that we have experienced a tumultuous change. I've been using a key instrument for this ritual since 2006, namely a watering can. By watering the rocks in the lakes using a watering can and a kettle, I pray for the harmonious circulation of the water. In 2005, I started this installation project, and allow me to briefly introduce the two lakes where I conducted my project in 2013 and 14 in particular. Lake Baikal in Russia is the deepest lake in the world and known for its outstanding water quality and biodiversity. The lake is 636 kilometers long with an average depth of 744 meters and maximum depth of 1,637 meters. It contains around 20% of all fresh water on Earth. The largest island in the lake, Olkhon Island, is located off its western shore, and there is a rock called Shaman Rock on the western side of the island. The deepest point of the lake is located on the opposite side of the island from Shaman Rock, around 10 kilos off the eastern coast of the lake. It was there that it cast into the water a large rock weighing 180 kilos, which was carved with the letter B. BODA for water, which is water in Russian, only inverted upside down. Starting from that point, I sunk the rest of the rocks represent letters O, D, and A across a stretch of water spanning 70 kilos up to the vicinity of Olkhon Island. In Lake Titicaca, located 3,812 meters above sea level, there are 41 islands of various sizes. Among them, Taki Island is situated around 45 kilometers in the city of Puno. The local residents traditionally wear clothes, hats, and badges that they or their family members craft by hand. In particular, the bell-shaped textile handicraft items that most men wear around their waist are known for their intricacy and exquisite details across the world. But they're also inscribed with an agricultural calendar and farming methods as well. In recognition of the transmission of oral traditions and textile handicrafts, Takil and its textile art were inscribed in the UNESCO representative list of ICH of Humanity in 2008. I purchased some of the belts and traditional hats that the locals are wearing and used them for a performance. In the Quechua language of the Incans of Peru, the word for water is unu, and since the language has no writing system, I wrote the word in the English alphabet. In the case of the Nile in 2009, I created a separate sculpture installation alongside WPIP at the request and with the support of the Aswan headquarters of the Nile River Protection and Development Agency. In the middle of the lake, there is a large island named Elephantine, which is home to ancient remains in the Aswan Museum. In the southeast of the island, there are nilometers, which are some of the most notable artifacts from ancient Egypt. The geology of the area, including the riverbed, consists entirely of red granite. This is where I carved the Arabic character for water upside down. This piece was titled Water of Nile. As this was in December at the peak of dry season, I was able to carry out my sculpture work on the islet. The water remains submerged under the river for the remaining 9 months of the year and gradually reveals the bedrock, bearing the upside-down character for water upon entering the dry season. At last, the character for water is reflected onto the river in its entirety. I have been told that many tourists visit Aswan to admire the two different kinds of water. Although Central Asia is largely consisting of arid deserts, mountains, highlands, and steppes, it is also home to numerous lakes and rivers. Among the trade routes that historically connected the East and West, the Silk Road refers to the road, a route used for the exchange of civilizations and cultures among cities, located across the deserts and oases of the region, in which water served as both a key instrument and source of livelihood. Another crucial factor that allowed the Silk Road to flourish was the character of the various peoples that inhabited Central Asia. However, for many years, the regions that constitute the Silk Road have been struggling as a result of global warming and water shortages caused by worsening desertification, which are significant obstacles to the conservation and continuation of traditional cultures. I plan on finding select rivers with outstanding vistas to install a sculpture representing the water of Silk Road, through which countless visitors will be able to witness two types of water and gain a new appreciation towards water. In addition, I will collaborate with artists from the countries located along the Silk Road to further develop WPIP and create an opportunity to rethink the issue of water and environment. Installation pieces are designed to independently embody and demonstrate the physical and cultural relationship between text and the subject that it describes. The indoor and outdoor installation of this piece, Three Kinds of Water, is no exception. Water continues to move and continues to interact with its environment. This installation piece comes to life when the word water meets real water. And for more information, I'd like to invite you to check the website. These upside-down words are a very important element in my installation art. In Jeju Island of South Korea, there's a tradition of writing the word water, meaning the ocean, on a piece of white paper and attaching it to the wall of the kitchen or above the stove, where fire is often used, based on the belief that water will overflow and subdue any fires. This is a case in which people recognize the power of written text in real life and wish for a corresponding effect. climate change, global warming are melting glaciers and evaporating the water that serve as the source of rivers and lakes in Central Asia at an ever-accelerating pace. Though there have been various multinational endeavors to abate this phenomenon, the absence of a clear response has come to highlight the need for greater cooperation among Central Asian nations. The Water Performance Installation Project aims to continue out of its wish for the coexistence of humanity and nature in the Silk Road region, restoration of the spirit of water. While we cannot violate the physical property and power of water, we can discover clues for resolution to our current dilemma through the spirit of water. Water does not fight, but rather accepts all, creates harmony with its surroundings, it flows and the sea. And eventually, it becomes whole once more. I would like to end with a short video of my project.
Thank you very much for your meaningful and interesting presentation that reminds us of the preciousness of nature. So far, we have a whole presentation from 4 speakers. Now it's time for discussion. I'd like to have the audience engaged fully in the discussion, so your comments, advice, and any other input would be appreciated. While the audience questions or comments are being prepared, let me ask some questions to the presenters. The first question will be to Ms. Helena Norberg-Hodge in the order of presentation. Ms. Helena Norberg-Hodge, thank you very much for your hard work and achievement. You have emphasized a new order and way of life and need to promote localization to escape from globalization and cultural uniformity. In my opinion, this localization can be carried out more easily in the post-corona era. What do you think? And this is the second question. In the post-corona era, is there a need to change the direction or strategy of the localization movement? If so, what would be? People nowadays in the post-corona era talk about new normals. So please also briefly tell us about the post-corona era localization. I'll give you a podium to you.
After COVID, there is no doubt that people around the world have actually become much more interested in their local food economy and in their local community. in many parts of the world, there were very inspiring demonstrations that people were looking after each other, and they formed informal groups. Even when they couldn't meet, they still supported each other. Now, there is a very important truth, I think, which is that we are not going to go back to normal, whatever happens. Things are always changing. The danger is that our governments are locked into blindly supporting a more competitive, high-tech, globalizing path. And with COVID, there has been an acceleration of the dependence on the screen, on Amazon, on Google, and this is a very dangerous direction because we need a balance between dependence on international communication and the global infrastructure. And we must restore the balance that allows local infrastructure and local face-to-face culture, the lived culture of people feeling connected to their community. As I said, particularly the intergenerational community that is still demonstrated in the cultures that we were hearing about today. Along the Silk Road, in those ancient cultures, there are still remnants of that intergenerational connection, the connection to nature, and the celebrations, the festivals that you're talking about represent that. But we need to make sure that this is not just for tourists, that this is actually a way of maintaining the cultural fabric. Unfortunately, most of it is for tourism. Unfortunately, most of the real interdependent human culture is fading away. So we have to actively support a different direction. So it's a question of restoring the balance between local and global. And that's to do both with the cultural vitality locally of face-to-face lived cultural experience versus a relationship to global role models, global ideas of who we should be. And we are in danger now after COVID of allowing our governments to support the globalizing high-tech AI, very competitive competition really to Mars to look for minerals while we destroy the minerals on the ground. We need to be restoring the soil, the minerals, the health of our ecosystems. We need to slow down. We need to create more collaborative relationships, both locally and globally. COVID has definitely helped to create a platform where more people are looking for solutions. I want to make a big plea for the big picture, a holistic understanding that where we understand that we cannot separate economic development from cultural development, from ecological sustainability. We have to understand the impact of the globalizing path on culture and ecology. And it means we need to change the economic trajectory to support cultural diversity and biodiversity. I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. I have a good understanding of the new way of life and strategy in the post-corona era, thanks to you. I'm sure that after this, maybe from the floor, the other question will be possible. Next, I will ask to second speaker, Dr. Seong-Yong Park. I have two questions. You have been working on intangible cultural heritage in Central Asia for the past 10 years. You said that intangible cultural heritage can be a driving force for sustainable growth. Can you describe a specific case for this? This is the first question. And the second question is, this conference started with your ideas, and I know you have been leading. do you have a specific idea of the mechanism or system you want to create through the Silk Road network? Simply, we want to listen your Silk Road network system briefly. Please go on.
Thank you, Ms. So. As for first question about the role of ICH, in the sustainable development, we have been collecting many cases about its role of ICH, to contributing to sustainable development. So for some years, we could come up with several publications dealing with this topic. So you can access to HCAP's website for more information about this feedback from member states. If I briefly explain the impact of ICH to the sustainable development, it is widely acknowledged that the ICH has a strong impact on boosting cultural tourism and economic development, as well as environment protection and ecological sustainability. And at the same time, it also strongly boosts the preserving and transmitting cultural resources, such as traditional knowledge, as a cultural resources, for the next generations. So these are very important components when we speak of the role of ICH to the sustainable development. And as for second question about the future network of Silk Road ICH, it is, basically we have some direction to formulate this network as a very ICH community-based and inclusive network. So today and tomorrow, we are going to hold a strategic meeting of this network. So we are going to deal with the operational issues of future network. At the same time, we're going to handle this issue very specifically for the future to get more feedback from the stakeholders along the Silk Road. So we'll have a more clear pictures after having collective intelligence from the Silk Road region. That's it.
Thank you very much for your answer. I also have personally researched in Central Asian countries for the past 10 years, and I felt that importance of intangible cultural heritage was very great. And I hope that intangible cultural heritage can create economic effect and a good system or plan can be prepared for the solidarity between Silk Road countries. This time, question for Dr. Alisher Ikramov. I have two questions. I am grateful for the great work that has been done in relation to the intangible cultural heritage of Central Asia over the past decades. First of all, can we create a system that can develop the Intangible Cultural Heritage Festival as a tourism project between Silk Road countries? If this happens, it will create a great economic effect through economic cooperation between the Silk Road countries. And I think that it will be able to contribute greatly to solidarity and communication between Silk Road countries too. For example, I'll give an example. There's a case where the Turkey Council, the Turkey Council, which is who speaks Turkic languages. And they recently developed a Silk Road tourism project and made it possible to freely travel through Silk Road visa. These kind of program can be happen. And the second question, this is a little bit long. When an intangible cultural heritage was developed as a tourism resource, as this festival became commercialized, are there any concern of losing the traditional values or original meaning? If that happened, how can we prevent it in advance? These two questions. Thank you. Dr. Alisher Ikramov?
Yes. Okay, thank you. So I think the answer to your question is very simple. To both your questions, could you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, excellent. So
But
it's
no
very
speak.
simple. Yeah. To both your questions, the answer is yes and yes. If you remember the first question you've been answering about to what extent it could be related with cultural tourism and ICH festival. So, and to what extent it could promote solidarity between countries along Silk Roads. The answer is simple, yes, of course. But here I am very much in line with what Helena said just before me. We have to keep balance. So the tourism should be not a purpose just for the development of the festival. So the main purpose should be really to preserve, to safeguard this, and safeguard in the form of to encourage the transmission of these local traditions, local values, all of this maybe uniqueness because of this representativeness of any local communities or local groups or individuals, like we're calling ICH practitioners, right? So we have to keep this in balance, the balanced development of the strategy for cultural tourism vis-a-vis preservation and benefits for the local tradition, for those who are safeguarding of this tradition from generation to generation. Second question being related also with the issue of the commodification, possibly challenge with commodification or maybe commercialization of ICH. Yes, there is a challenge. Again, so my reply is yes, there is a challenge. There is a potential problems with it. Therefore, when in my presentation I reiterated once more again that what's important is that we have to every time think about the benefits and about the interest of local communities. And in terms of course, in ICH there is no notion like authenticity because life is changing. Life is changing. And traditions which been, for example, existed in medieval time, now already transformed on the different forms, modalities, etc. So life not staying in one place. So, and of course the tradition also is a subject for change time to time. But nevertheless, we have to think that the commercialization could really have negative impact to the preservation of these local traditions, local practices, social practices, or in other words, in the scientific research papers, there is a phrase like folklorization. So we against, I mean, we should not be in favor of folklorization when there are some folk activities are starting to be something like just for the public, for the tourists, for some visitors on the stage, etc. Because we have to think, like Helen said, about the harmonization between cultural diversity and biological diversity. So we have to respect these interrelations, interlinkages between environment, surrounding environment, as well as with human society.
Thank you very much for your answer, and you focus on very important factor actually, the making a balance between the safeguarding and preservation of intangible cultural heritage and making economic effect is very important. I hope that for the solidarity of the sacred countries, there will be a system in which items such as the Intangible Cultural Heritage Festival can be utilized. Lastly, I'd like to ask Mr. Dongjo Yu. Actually, there is also many disputes over water between Central Asia countries. It can be seen in the dispute between Uzbekistan and Tajikistan through Amur River, which is the biggest river in Central Asia. Have you ever think about to try to installation art in the Amrut area for the symbol dispute of Central Asia over the water? And then second question too. This is the second question. The depletion of the Aral Sea in Central Asia is a very serious environmental problem. Do you have any plan to use this installation art to the Aral Sea? These two questions.
Thank you for your smart questions. I guess today is warmer than yesterday. I guess this week warmer than last week because of climate change, global warming, I guess. I think there are variations of the water levels in Amudarya River. So I plan to implement river project in Amudarya River to raise the issue of saving water. Second, for second question, it's kind of a natural disaster caused by human being. Ironically, it proves the importance for the environment protection. As my field is preventing art, I would like to cooperate with the artists in the region to promote the issue of Arasia as a good experience education venue. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your opinion and plan. You emphasized spirit of water in your presentation. I think we never forget this. Water does not fight, but rather accept all, create harmony with its surroundings, and flow endlessly. And eventually, it becomes whole one more. This is very impressive. And actually, this is a time for the Q&A session for the audience. But maybe I'm sure that there is no question. Yeah, no question. Can you get a?
The Zoom chat.
They checked. Yeah, they checked the questions. Please give me a time. Actually, today we are talking about Ice Age, its meaning and the function of how we utilize the Ice Age in terms of cultural heritage for the solidarity and communication in the Silk Road countries. There are very good ideas and experience we shared together. This is very meaning time, and the first time we get together for the conference between each countries. And especially during the time of today, because of the corona situation, it's not so easy to make a organized conference, these kind of things. So now I would like to thank one more time to organizers, to each CAP and ECAS and KF2. They are ready. The answer question is ready. There is some question why this conference is. In this conference, there is a presentation or some talking about Silk Road, even though we are talking about ancient time, the route of Silk Road. In this network, what is the function or role of China? I think for this question, Dr. Seong-Yong Park is the exact person to answer. Please.
Actually, we haven't excluded any countries along the Silk Road. Actually, ECAS has tried to invite and induce the participation from the member states, yeah, definitely China is a very important country as well as partner for future ICH networking in the Silk Road. So, in terms of implementing the recent survey projects targeting Silk Road, the festival, yeah, in these projects, the organizer could not, invite some countries, but for the future collaboration, I think we can fully invite the member states from the Silk Road area, including China. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure that maybe next time actually this networking system can be all secret countries will be welcomed. So I thank you very much for your kind questions, and I think this session should be finished here due to the time. Thank you to all the organizers, presenters, and audience for hosting the meaningful event. Please remember all the meaning of the sacred, intangible cultural heritage and pay attention to continued strategic meeting. Thank you very much.